Hey crafters, thanks for joining me. Today I'm going to be showing my faux neon technique with a surprise pop-up card. Hope you enjoy! So for this card I used some stamps from All the Cupcakes from My Favorite Things, and I positioned them on the front of my 5x7" card panel, and I left a bit of a space for my sentiment. And I wanted to use some heat embossing here, so I just put my anti-static bag on it before using my Versamark on the stamps. And I used my stamp platform for this so that I could double stamp the stamps just to make sure that I had a nice, clean, clear impression of them. So after stamping these twice on my stamp platform, I put on some white Wow heat embossing powder and heat set these. Here's a little tip if you're struggling to get a good impression for heat embossing. I find that if you use brand new stamps, it doesn't always work well with Versamark. So if you use Memento Tuxedo Black or Versamark Black, stamp the images, clean your stamps, and then use the Versamark. I find that I get a better impression and a clearer image that way. So I've just heated my images with my Ranger heat tool from behind there. And now I'm going to use my sentiment from the same stamp set. And I'm using my VersaFine Onyx Black for this. And I just stamped my sentiment on a piece of white card. And I'm going to trim it down and put black card behind it. I love this sentiment. It's perfect for a birthday card, and it's very apt for the times that we're living in right now. So now I'm going to use some Distress Oxide. This is in Cracked Pistachio, and I'm going to apply it over the whole panel. And now you can see the beautiful cupcakes that I heat embossed, and they're starting to show through on the card panel. Now you could use the same cupcake, but I used all sorts of different ones. So it depends on what effect that you're going for with your card. Now for the surprise pop-up element in my card, I'm going to use a piece of card that's the same color. So I'm adding some cracked pistachio onto that as well. So I wanted to spray some distress spray onto my project, but I didn't want to make a mess. So I have this box from Creative Expressions, and it has a inside panel, as you can see, the white area underneath, which helps to keep the mess contained. And you can also use this for inking and for blending. So I'm going to spray on 3 different colors of distress ink. There's Lucky Clover, Broken China, and Wilted Violet. And I'm just going to spray these until I'm happy with it. Now keep in mind when you add distress ink spray onto Distress Oxide, which is my Cracked Pistachio, the Distress Oxide will always be stronger. So these colors will start to fade a little bit. And because I have that insert in my box, I can do a little bit of ink smooshing there as well until I'm happy with my effect. And I'm going to just hit this with a heat tool just to make sure it's dry. Then I'm going to repeat the process on that tiny scrap of paper, which will be my pop-up insert on the inside of the card. And the best part about using a box like this is I can pull the panel out and use it for more ink smooshing, and then it wipes clean. So I'm just going to heat the little scrap of paper so that I have both pieces ready to continue. So now to get my faux neon technique, what I did, after some experimenting, I discovered that if you use your copic markers on top of heat embossing, it gives a nice bright neon-like contrast. And the trick to this is you want to color slightly over the lines and use really bright copic colors so that you get a contrast. You don't need to worry about ink blending with the copics for this technique. Just putting down one color in one area works really well. Now, if you happen to get some of the ink around the shape that you're coloring, just use a color that's similar to your background and you can color over it so that it looks nice and neat. Just beautiful. So now I'm going to add the sentiment on the front of the card there. And you could leave your card like this, but I wanted to add the surprise pop-up feature as well. So I used a scrap of paper and added some wilted violet distress oxide onto it. And I'm going to use the matching die set that goes with this stamp set, also by My Favorite Things. So first I'm going to use a little bit of Perfect Pearls mixed with water and spray it on this little bit of paper, and that gives my purple a really shimmery effect, which will be perfect for the cupcake I'm going to die cut. So these dies are from the Mini Cupcake Maker Die-namics from My Favorite Things, and I'm going to use the colorful panel that's the same as the outside of the card for the cupcake liner, and then the purple wilted violet for the frosting. So I'm just attaching this with a bit of washi tape, and now I can do my pop-up component. So for this I use this strip, which is 3/4 of an inch thick, and then I just folded it at 1 inch, 2 inches, and then 4 inches and 6 inches. You could change the sizing of this as you prefer, but I just wanted it big enough for the cupcake. And then using the Hey There Cupcake Die-namics, I just lined up the sentiment on the black card so that the Hey There will be cut with black, and it'll have a bit of white card behind it, and then the cupcake, which I'll cut out of white, will be put on top of the black. So this black rectangle is about 3.5 by 2 inches. So it's just big enough so that you can see both dies, both of which I adhered with some white PVA glue. Now I wanted to add the inside of the R as well, so I just put a tiny bit of glue onto where the inside of the R would be, and then lined up the letter and poked it out. And then I trimmed my panel so it was a little bit smaller than 5 by 7, so it would have a nice border around it when I put it on my 5 by 7 inch card blank. Now for the inside of the card, before I was ready to glue down my little pop-up mechanism, I just used some post-it tape to tape it in place to make sure that it would work and to test that I had put the folds in the right way. Once I was happy with the mechanism and I had it folding with the card and popping up, then I removed the post-it tape and glued it into place. I think this pop-up element adds a little bit of whimsy to the card and works perfectly with the cupcake theme of this card. This would also work really well with other designs where you have a matching stamp and die set like I did with the cupcakes here. So now that my mechanism is working properly, I'm just going to glue on the cupcake and the sentiment so that they stand up when the recipient opens the card. And I decided that the cupcake should be almost vertical and the sentiment horizontal. And there's still lots of room underneath for me to write my message to the recipient. And gluing this Hey There cupcake onto the mechanism helps to cover that up as well, so that it doesn't look messy when the recipient opens the card. I love how this turned out, and it's nice and flat for mailing. Just perfect. Thanks for watching. I hope you found this video inspiring. Be sure to subscribe so that you're notified whenever I post a new video. Have a crafty day!